Okay, I'm making this video. This is a rf1a gear driven transfer case. Still needs a lot of cleaning up and everything else like that. This is going to be a three-part video, just on disassembly, um, and I'll do a rebuild video later on down the road. I have already, some people call this the crawl box. This is where your transmission would mate the transfer case to it. You have your front output for your front differential, rear output for the rear drive shaft. Shifter's already been removed already, and I already have this kind of loosely taken apart except the other two portions of the case. But we'll just give a little basic walkthrough on things. You're gonna have 12 millimeters up here on your shifter. You have 30 millimeter on your output flanges. Um, let's see, this guy here, I believe is, let's see, a 7/8. We have the 30 mil. I just have a little impact just to help bust out bolts. You will need it is a 10 millimeter Allen wrench for the side plugs. You have two dentent ball springs, which give the shifting forks themselves the actual spring pressure, so the shifter doesn't flop and move around and everything else. It doesn't shift into gear on its own. It has something to retain that. You're obviously going to need a pair of snap ring pliers, and I just have a little miscellaneous 10 millimeter there from another project I was working with. Disregard the drill. I was just cleaning up the case. This one was pretty nasty. It needs to be thoroughly cleaned. But yeah, for now, we'll get off all into it. So on most T cases, if you have the one with the angled nipple that comes out of the side, you will have to remove the other side of the case to remove all of this stuff prior to removing the crawl box. This one's out of a 87 or an 88 Toyota. So yeah, once you have it unbolted, you can tap it apart. They're not too hard. This one's actually getting some parts for a rebuild on another T case that I'm rebuilding. So we'll go ahead and we'll pull the crawl box off. And so you have your inside high-speed gears. Or actually, my mistake, I believe that's low speed side. This is all the high speed side in this section of the box. So then you have your shifter forks, which I already have this pin removed. I just use a common Phillips screwdriver. It's perfect size, fits for the pins without damaging them to drive them out. You can just slide them off. We'll set everything to the side, bolts and everything else, kind of lay everything out in order. It'll just help aid the assembly process. So we'll go ahead, and once you've had your companion flange removed, we have the 4 bolts that retain the output shaft plate. Now there is a hole there and there. Those have to be lined up together in the assembly process, or you have oiling problems to your bearings. Then from there, we'll go ahead and we'll drive out the other pin. Let's see if I can set this in a spot to where we can see what we're doing. But I'm just gonna set my screwdriver on top. I'm gonna drive the pin out. Just be careful in doing that so you don't lose your pins or anything else like that. Go ahead and remove This stuff's a little bit rusted. It's been sitting for a while out of a parts truck. Just a little persuasion should take it on and off of there. So now you have your hub collar and shift fork. Set that to the side. Now, at this point, once you're this point of the teardown process, you're going to go ahead and take your snap ring pliers. You have a snap ring here around the bearing. It retains the bearings from falling into the case. This bearing, you could actually pull it out, but it'll come out with the case too. That shouldn't be an issue there. One thing you might want to take note of is just watch all your needle bearings and things like that. Just don't do any prying or any major beating on the case, because these do have a tendency to fall out of their cage. The major rebuild kit from Trail Gear, Low Range Off-Road, or Davies Off-Road, or many other companies out there that sell the rebuild kits for these. If you get the major kits, they should come with all of the replacement needle bearings and things like that, and you can usually drive them out with a seal driver kit, which I have a bunch of other seal drivers and things like that there underneath of my little workbench. Sorry about the mess. I've tore down a whole other complete T case that was destroyed, so we had to source another one, all over the output shaft and things like that. You run these things dry, and the oiling system will surely eat up all of the bearings and everything normally inside this T case. The little bit of surface rust that you might find in one that's been sitting and all that stuff, it's normally, it's not a big deal. That'll clean up with a wire brush, as long as all the bearings and everything else is spinning smooth and doing what it needs to do. You shouldn't have any issues with it and everything else like that. If you've submerged your T case in mud or anything like that and have weak seals that are not retaining the oil, and a vent on your shifter that works properly and things like that, these things are designed to get hot and expel the gases that the oils will create. And if the vents are not working properly, they surely will draw in water, mud, sand, anything. Most people do a lot of rock crawling and things like that, so they don't normally go in mud. But here in South Mississippi, that's really all the fun that we can have is mud riding. So a lot of this stuff gets submerged in water, and people fail to change the oil or drain these things, and just kind of do them religiously and stuff after a good long day of wheeling. You just take and pull your drain plug, service everything, maybe even take the shifters out, pour a little gas in there and stuff. You take it for a quick little spin, and then re-drain everything just to get all the little pooty doot and everything else out of the inside of the transfer case, which this one's in okay shape. Hasn't really had any submerging issues. It's just been sitting dry and collecting moisture and stuff like that. So that's kind of why it's all full of the rust that it has. But it has a light coat of oil and stuff on everything, and everything spins and operates fine. So, but a good tear down and get all this stuff out of the case and stuff, so you're not dealing with crud or contaminated oil by any means. But yeah, we'll keep going. We'll grab the C-clip pliers here, and it's fairly simple. Just locate your opening. I'm gonna take and move this one down. Let me set my phone down for just a second, and I'll show you what I mean. Just kind of going to get that in a good position where you can work on it freely and easy. see. Yeah, I'm gonna just go ahead and set this down. Get it to where y'all could actually see what's going on here. Maybe might be a little too shadowed. Sorry, working from home, and I'm not some big professional YouTuber guy, but I like to help out where I can and just try to assist anybody who might be dealing with just little projects at home and just doing things. It's always easier to do them for myself than it is for me to pay a ton of money to someone. I like to see things being built, from the average DIYer guy, and just to help out. So once you get it spread out, can kind of see there, we've got a gap. I'm going to take a screwdriver and I'm going to lift that guy up so it doesn't fall back into its groove while I'm holding it open. And then you can just kind of rotate it out of its pocket. Let's see. It's okay. Let's see. I'm getting oil on my screen, so it's a little hard to see. Okay, so all I did was I pried it apart, used a screwdriver to kind of pick it up, and then you can just kind of walk this ring over and then just pull it out. You say you want to just kind of set everything to the side as you're disassembling. Trail Gear has great instructions. There's many of instructions on the website and things like that, and it should come with your kits when you go about ordering a major rebuild or something of that nature. It should have some sort of instructions and stuff to give you some sort of details on how disassembly is, whether you're doing like a twin stick or you're setting it up with crawl gears or anything else like that. For this particular case, we're just staying 228, so none of that stuff is getting changed out. We're just rebuilding. I'm gonna do gasket and seals. Every single bearing in the case will be replaced. And any other gears or anything else like that that may have chips, cracks, need any replacement due to damage other than minor surface rust. The gears will be replaced, which I have several spare T cases to replace them with. So yeah, we'll proceed. So from here, we've already got this guy loose and ready to come out, so that way when we remove the case, everything comes with it. Now, this gear here, we may need to flip it over and actually remove the other section, which we'll go ahead and do that now. Got to give it to some of the other YouTube mechanics and things like that. I would love to get me a nice tripod set up with a camera and things like that. But you just make do with what you have to deal with. So yeah, here goes. We're gonna take out the, let's see, we got 7 bolts total. That is a fill plug there, the bigger one, off to the side of where I'm starting. So I'm gonna go ahead and zap out all of these bolts real quick. I wish I could do a time lapse for you guys, but I'm kind of not doing this in really any particular order, especially on teardown. It's pretty self-explanatory for the most part. And as long as I've been a mechanic, I mean, I've always just kind of lived by the philosophy of if I can see a bolt, I can remove a bolt. And in all actuality, you should be able to take it apart. All of these bolts will get torqued back down to spec. I believe on the longer bolts, 18 foot-pounds. Well, I guess that goes for all 14 millimeter headed bolts. Is 18 foot-pounds on those. The 12 millimeter bolts are 14 foot-pounds. I don't know, that might not be 100% correct, but that's what I torque mine to, and I don't have an issue with them. I think I'm a little over torquing the bolts, but I guess that's, for me, in my mind, extra assurance that nothing will come apart, and guaranteed to get a good clamp and a good seal on things. Okay, so we have all 7 bolts there. Now, on most of these T cases, there is lips on them to separate them. Like here is a lip. You have other lips here. There's several around the T case that you can tap on. Just the cases are aluminum, so don't be very forceful with them. They shouldn't take a lot of force to remove them. Speedo drive collar and all that stuff like that, normally I remove them, but it's really not necessary. You can split the case with or without them. Just kind of want to find a little groove. There's a couple grooves in the cases that have more of a lip to them where you can kind of get underneath of them. You just want to give it a gentle pry and kind of get the case to start splitting. So I set the phone back down, and here you go. You can see what I'm kind of doing with all of that, if the lighting is okay. So just gonna go ahead and pry it. Get the seal coming up. And then there you go. Doesn't take very much force. Nothing real excessive or anything else like that. You just, like I said, just don't want to be very forceful with the case. I just kind of set everything off to the side. You can do further disassembly on all the shafts and bearings and everything else, which they really do not require any major presses. You normally can just cup the bearing and use a hammer to drive the bearing off of the shafts and things like that, depending on how stuck they are or anything else like that, which normally I don't even have. Even on some of the worst T cases, I don't have any issues separating bearings or anything else like that. But I'm gonna go ahead and end this video here, and I'll do a little bit more further disassembly, just to aid in the next video on part 2 on the teardown. Thank you guys. If you like my my channel, my work, and everything else like that, please like and subscribe. If you have any comments or anything else like that, please feel free to share. All right, appreciate it. Thanks. Bye bye.